These are my tongue of fire pole beans that I discovered in the black half cut off barrel. Now they're growing pretty good. Keep up with snacking on the Napa cabbage. I grab a handful every time I walk by, folks, but sometimes I grab 2 or 3 handfuls, but it's growing in pretty good. So that's definitely got to be thinned out. But we've had some 100-degree, we just had a pretty good heat wave. For Maine anyway, it was, the heat index was like 107, 109 for 3 days in a row. It was just so hot, so humid. Maine gets really, really humid because, you know, we've got all kinds of wetlands. We've got a lot of rivers, streams, ponds, bogs, swamps, lakes, and then we got a massive coastline, right? So it gets pretty hot. I think, I don't know, maybe someone can tell me, I think those got sunburn because there's more on the south side than there is on the north side. And I know some of it is rust because I would come in here and try to avoid the leaves and snack on some Napa cabbage, but so far so good. It's growing pretty good. So I will keep you posted. I know, I'm pretty sure it was, I think, Tony that asked for the update on the tongue of fire pole beans and a half barrel. So there's that. That is a cart full, that's my 3rd cart of pine needles. I am doing some mulching around my thornless blackberries. So this here is a tree I just planted last week. It's a snappy Mac, and I have been real impressed, folks, with Stock Brothers fruit trees. Really, really, really worth the money, folks. So there's my plug on that. I don't get anything for saying that. I just like to share what works for me. So, well, while I'm right here, this is some wild elderberry. These are black elderberry. They grow all the way around the bog. They love that morning sun. Now, a few years ago, I had to cut every single elderberry within walking distance right back because I had I don't know what kind of fungus it was. It was a great big orange slug looking things all over them. So I cut them all back, and they come back pretty good. I do have orange flagging on the ones that I want to make sure that I don't mow over, right? There's another one in there, and there's some more over there. Now this was all cleared out, folks. It's awful hard to keep up with brush. Just ask off-grid Amy. She's struggling with that as well. So I marked the elderberries, and there used to be a fence in here, and I took the fence out. It was a 6-foot fence. Boy, that was quite a chore because the fence was right along the bog, and that's where the brush grew up, right? So that was quite a headache. So twice now, since I've cut it back, I've let it grow up just because I just can't keep up with the brush, folks. So what I have done, I really understand where off-grid Amy is coming from. I really do. I think what I'm going to do is, come this winter, if we don't have snow and this dies back, I know there's some brush stumps in there that I've got to take the chainsaw to. I'm going to cut all this back again, cut the brush stumps, And then I'm just going to have to, because brush grows so fast, folks, I am just going to have to put my lawnmower up on the highest setting and just keep this cut every week. It's going to have to be cut every week, folks. That's the only way, because that's the south. Well, that's the south. And what I would like to do, see, here's my blackberries. Now, if you're asking why I didn't cut these off, is because I wanted these to form up, because this was the same color as the grass. I wanted to make sure that I weren't mowing over them. So now that these are up, I'm going to cut the old growth. So I know some of you are already enjoying your tomatoes and your cucumbers and all of that, and probably your blackberries, but we're so far northeast, folks, that our growing season is only 3 months long. So we're way behind a lot of you folks. A lot of you are already canning your vegetables, and ours are barely poking through the ground. So this right here is what I'm doing. A little bit of experiment. From here to here, I've got cardboard with about 4 inches of pine shavings. Well, no, pine needles. They call it pine hay. So I hate dealing with cardboard, folks, and I don't have that much of it. So what I am going to do, which I think will work, right there stops the cardboard. I think I'm just going to pile the pine needles, the pine hay, right on top of the grass. And pine needles, once it rains, it's supposed to rain for the next week, off and on, that will mat right down, so I don't think that grass will grow up through. And if it does, well, we'll deal with it. Lesson learned, we move on and adjust, right? So some of these are Apache thornless, and what I think I'm going to do, like this one here, that right there, I am going to put a container of dirt right over there, put the tip of that in, and start a few more blackberry bushes. I do not have, I've been measuring. Now this here, folks, see all those stumps? This was woods. This here, where some of my apples are, look just like that. Thick, 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 thick brush. And I took the loppers, I took the chainsaw, cut everything out, cut the stumps down, and just started mowing it. And 2 years after I started mowing it, I've got grass that I need to mow every week, right? So that's what I'm hoping to do over here. I'm dreading that fence. But anyway, I'm turning around in circles. For thornless blackberries, the cultivated, they only need to be 3 to 5 feet apart in a row. Some of them, because I ran into a rock or a root, I had to either move sideways or space them a little bit further apart. Like that one right there is more 5 feet, where these here are more 3 feet. But in the row, they can be 3 to 5 feet apart. If you get another row beside it, it has to be at least, it should be at least 6 feet between rows. So I measured that. Well, I paced it off from there to about here, right in line with I struggle with stumps here, folks, is about 6 feet. Now, if I make a row here, which I thought about doing, I'm not sure if it will interfere with the apples that I've got here. right? So these are semi-dwarf. This is just part of them, but they are semi-dwarf and they can get anywhere from 12 to 15 feet wide. So going on the 15-foot part, if I go one side of the tree and pace off 7 feet, that brings me about here, and that only gives me a couple of feet from my blackberry row. I'm not really sure what I'm going to do. If y'all have a suggestion, I would really appreciate this. If you can tell me if this is enough room to plant another row of blackberries, or should I propagate them and start somewhere else like I had to do my apples and my mulberries and, you know, everything else, right? Start out small and keep adding. So that's my struggle. Well, it's not really a struggle. It gives me something to think about. And while I am right here, I was only going to show that the pole bean, but while I'm right here, this here is, I don't know what they call this. It's a tree that grows on a fence, and it grows on a wire trellis. And this one here has, the top wire has Anjou, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, Anjou pear. The second trellis, the middle trellis, has red Bartlett on the left and Bartlett pear on the right. The bottom wire has Flemish Beauty, and the right side has Summer Crisp. So there's 5 different types of pear that have been grafted on this short stalk, and I set it up like a lot of my grape trellises. So that should work. That should work. It's been a learning curve because you have to train those limbs. You have to train those limbs to go this way, and then you have to tie them down, and I've just got orange flag in. I don't care what it looks like. So it's constant. It is constant. It's a lot of pruning. You got the rain sprouts you got to cut off 2 or 3 times. I got a little tiny tomato plant there, and an even smaller one there. Send me your prayers, folks. I don't know. They're only like 4 inches tall. So anyway, this is what I'm doing. This is much longer than I was going to. I was just going to show you my beans. So I'm going to get back at this. It's clouding up. Got a nice cool breeze. Good time to get a few more feet anyway. Bye-bye.